All right, we're back. Peyton Manning was also back in Indy, making his first return, playing his former team. It was very emotional for him, of course, the big video tribute, and also the thank yous and gratitudes that he received from former players and obviously from the fans. It clearly shows how much they appreciated him, so much so that he actually helped them build a new stadium, at least fund it, with his success that he's had in his early part of his career. But guys, going into this one, a lot of people thought that this was the Broncos' game to lose. They were 6-0 at the time, looked very strong, but there were moments where Peyton Manning looked human. And I don't know if you give credit to the defense, the schemes, you name it, or the emotion of the night, but I want to ask you guys, what was the bigger result, the Broncos losing this game or the Colts winning?
Colts winning, for sure. The defense, to me, was what won that game for them. They took the running game totally out of the equation and made Peyton Manning win the game. Didn't win the game. So to me, it's that defense that came into there and shut down one of probably the best offense in the league with all the weapons that he has and made Peyton Manning irrelevant for about 2.5 quarters. That's pretty much what won the game for Denver.
Yeah, it was a combination. You know, the Broncos aren't going to go undefeated in the season. Anybody thought that they were going to be the Miami Dolphins now? No, it wasn't going to happen. They had an off day. And at the same time, the Colts defense played that well. So it's a combination of both. And does this mean that Denver's in trouble? No. It's just a little bump in the road.
Bump in the road, but does it cause concerns for the Broncos? You mentioned a lack of a running game. They also had fumbleitis, so
yeah.
There were a lot of times, especially down the goal line, where they actually coughed up the ball. Now, is that something you got to look at if you're John Fox, if you're the Denver Broncos offensive coordinator? All right, we have to pick things up because right now our liability is at the run.
I think you got to pick something up in terms of running game. I don't think that means make a trade or make a signing. It just means do something about your running game. Obviously, this team's a throwing team. They have all the weapons for throwing. That's what they're for. Running-wise, though, yeah, fumbleitis is the biggest key for that team. That if you're going to keep doing that on the goal line, you're going to lose games. So, yeah, it's.
You know, I'm a true believer that when you win and you get on a bit of a winning streak, you have the habit of thinking everything's good. You know, we don't need to fix anything. We don't need to tweak this. We don't need to tweak that. But when you lose, you really sit back and you look at things. And losses actually make you a better club, whether it doesn't matter what sport it is. If your losses make you a better club, because the way you're going to respond next week.
Well, if losses make you a better club, I don't think you should be telling that to Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs. 7-0 and officially have solidified themselves as the leader in that AFC West, of course, just nudging over the Denver Broncos. With that said, only undefeated team. Are they the best NFL team?
No, maybe. They're 7-0. You got to give them that. You got to give them the credit. You also got to look at their schedule. They haven't played an elite team yet. They haven't played a Seattle. They haven't played a San Francisco. They're going to play Denver. But they really haven't played an elite team yet. And I think you do have to give them credit. They are 7-0. They were the worst team last year, but you know they still haven't played that elite quarterback, elite defense just yet.
They have a soft schedule, and they've taken advantage of a soft schedule. They've made, you know what, and Kansas City hasn't made a whole lot of changes from this year, from last year. Head coach, quarterback, but not wholesale changes. A little bit of tweaking, and all of a sudden they're 7-0, but are they a 7-0 club? No.
Well, you know what? I'm sure there's a lot of teams that I could speak for that would definitely want to be in Kansas City's shoes. Speaking of which, let's talk about the Minnesota Vikings. Now, there was reports from a good article. It was made it very interesting. And I know I talked about this in the newsroom with a couple people as well. Would you sacrifice Adrian Peterson? You guys are now 1-5. This is a team that doesn't really have the arsenal of weapons. They do have Josh Freeman, but again, Josh Freeman has only been there 1 week in. They're discombobulated when it comes to the quarterback situation. You have a defense that was strong at one point, but now is starting to give up points. But do you agree with maybe you have your biggest blue chip prospect here, or at least blue chip trading scenario here, by giving up AP at his peak? He just came off a 2,000-yard rushing season. His stock is probably going to be the highest as there ever will be in his career, and he's maybe got another 3 years left. So, and with that said, would it be smart to trade AP in the near future?
Maybe in the near future, not this year. With the new stadium, with the culture that's in that city, you can't trade your best player. You can't trade the franchise of the Vikings. And what are you going to get for him? Like, are you going to get a first-round pick, second-round pick? You know, you got to figure what you're going to get in return for Adrian Peterson. I don't know if it's going to help them. Like, is that 1-2 draft pick going to make them a better team next year, or is Adrian Peterson going to make them a better team next year with him still on that team?
How do you sell that to the fans? How do you sell that to, you know, we're going to trade away our best player and one of our best players in the last how many years in Minnesota for draft picks? Because, you know what, right now our club's going nowhere, so we need to trade him away. And you're going into a new stadium, a stadium that he's probably responsible for doing a lot of, and actually it's private, not private funding, it's public funding. So to try to say that to the state of Minnesota, they're trading away their best player, yeah, it's not going to fly.
Okay, very quickly, we're going to talk about injuries. I'm going to list a few names. Tell me which team is going to suffer the most, especially trying to make the playoffs. You have Green Bay losing Jermichael Finley with a head and neck sprain. You have Sam Bradford, who's out with a knee. You have Brian Cushing with the Houston Texans. He's out with the knee. Doug Martin, running back for Tampa Bay, out with a shoulder. Reggie Wayne with the Colts, again, knee. Jay Cutler, groin injury. That's not surprising. Lance Briggs, this guy is going to hurt the linebacking core for the Chicago Bears. He's out with a shoulder. Nick Foles with Philadelphia, concussion. Out of the names I said, with the teams they're with, who's going to suffer the most in terms of their playoff chances?
Chicago for sure, and Jay Cutler. You can't go into that division with Matthew Stafford and Aaron Rodgers and try to win a playoff spot with a backup quarterback who's not playing. He didn't play too bad in this last week, but you're not going to win those games without Jay Cutler. And everyone's in that division right now has 4 wins, except for obviously the Vikings. So down the stretch, I think Jay Cutler is going to be the biggest missed player on that team.
And more than anything for Chicago, not just Jay Cutler, but you also lose a pretty big part of your defense too. So in one game, wow, you lose a little bit in your offense and you lose a lot in your defense. So the Bears, that's going to be tough for Trestman.
I was going to say, Mark Trestman, his coaching leadership will be put to the test in the next few weeks. They do have a bye before they play a couple of divisional rivals, Green Bay being one of them. Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we got over-under and see which new division rival between these two will win this contest.